When solving new problems, we know that we must formulate a hypothesis and gather new information needed so that we can arrive at a new solution. When faced with new math equations, we know that the truest method to solving problems is foundational, such as sticking to the order of operations. Then we can proceed to move ahead. If we had no foundations in hard sciences, we would be leaving problem solving up to guesswork, which would be futile. Back in the 1980s, when the Rubik's Cube first came out as a novel new toy, I had painstakingly worked the cube until I could get all the sides matched except for 2 blocks out of the 54. I didn't just arrive at getting it all matched except for the 2 blocks. I had many unmatched sides at first, then unmatched rows, corners, or middles. It was pattern recognition as well as learning the algorithm in the puzzle. Not only that, but the key to fit the puzzle was locked into a set algorithm with no way of cheating or outsmarting it. You surely cannot outsmart a keyed in algorithm. What if there were no order of operations, though? What if the foundation for investigation was an area that not only skepticism abounded in but outright denialists? How do you solve for x when you don't know where x is, if there is an x, or if it's worth pursing in the first place? We are going to talk about how to set up linear models for non-traditional approaches based on history, consistency, value, and what might be true. If we find that something might be true based on history, consistency, value, and what might be true, it is worth pursuing. If it has none of those elements, we cannot start the process. We must set up a hypothesis, as in all academic models. The hypothesis is gathered to formulate whether it is worth pursuing and what variables will be needed to prove or disprove. Critical thinking comes from many avenues of one's thought process. Number 1. The programming of the historic. This is how we always done it. Method. Despite how this sounds or poorly phrased, it is a method everyone uses at some point. Whether it's meal preparation, car mechanics, filing taxes, and paying bills, it's an automatic process for solving relatively familiar life skills. It is tried and true is the go-to model that many rely on. If something has worked in the past, we tend to repeat the processes. How people use their brain typology will vary. By typology, I mean linear thinking, abstract, creative styles, as well as many other facets. We could go down the rabbit hole with personality type, straight down to the intricate lobe region each person is more likely to use. We can use vague terms like whole-brained, right-brained, and left-brained. We can use mechanical, spatial, verbal processing, and many models, as you can see. For instance, if have the same meetings every week, or you belong to the same club, go to the same library, buy the same food, or watch the same programming, there is an area of tried and true that is a constant in all of our lives. We have many areas where we do not use tried and true. There are many areas where tried and true is temporary and another area will always be tried and true, such as the way you shave or what side of the bed you sleep on at night. The tried and true works until it doesn't. Number 2. When the old tried and true is not working for a new problem. This is the reboot method. The historic tried and true works until it doesn't anymore. If your bills suddenly exceed your income, the historic method of paying them won't work. You must find a new solution to your problem. It could either be to increase your work hours, spend less money on food or non-essentials, or ask for late payment options. We know that if we continue to use the tried and true method, we will keep repeating the same cycle. We will be in a rough spot if we keep sliding into a deficit each month. Over time, this takes a toll. Somewhere along the way, we must think critically about options. Are we going to figure out how to acquire new skills, sell items, relocate, go broke, have bad credit, and worse disasters? Whilst we are far more complex than computers, we all have used the reboot model for critical thinking at some point. Arrive at a new problem such as financial matters that needed rest and know that we must decide what the next step will be. First, we don't have our solution right away, and this is the reboot. We must shut down to go into our internal processes. The automatic continuity of living is now threatened. One can learn a lot in the reboot. It might be a time off from something, a meditation, a walk, an internet search, a nap, or all these things. It could be reaching out to someone to ask for their advice. It may be a difficult challenge, but with one's own style of approach. Many solutions are possible. We know that multifaceted solutions and choices could be made to solve one's problem with income. While one solution may work, it may create other problems such as a crunch in leisure time, stress on schedule, or other matters. It could solve many problems and lead to happier outcomes and new opportunities. We must think of the reboot as a positive area of growth no matter what the outcomes, good or bad, are. It is an area where one is forced to grow. The reboot method is a process that will arrive at a new method that works. The reboot method is essential in critical thinking and problem solving. The absence of a reboot will leave one in tried and untrue methods. This reminds me of the quote I know Einstein is falsely attributed to saying, but I do not know who claims this famous quote. Insanity is doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results. 3. When biases are discovered, you reach a new awareness. The new awareness method is something we all do from time to time but is more sporadic than other methods. Generally, our own biases, unless pointed out, give us a false dichotomy of unknown and what is known to be true. These dichotomous blunders we do unbeknownst to us are what we could say are self-limiting. To be objective and face mass subjectivity, we must continue to pursue our own biases with introspection, investigation, and seek not validation but what values align with proposed objectives. How to dispel inherent biases? There are many ways to question oneself to try to be non-biased in quantifying truth or arriving at solutions. 1. Confront your minority opinion. If the minority opinion is based on blind belief, BB, emotional nostalgia, heresy, lack of evidence, tried and true, or tradition, perhaps it is time to test it to see if it holds up water. Will the minority opinion be valuable in the collective or just for selfish gains? B. Will the minority opinion become obsolete with technological advances, or will it become more obvious? C. Will the minority opinion be free of prejudice, stereotyping, and discriminatory wrongs to individuals? D. Will the minority opinion hold up if scrutinized with factual findings? E. Will the minority opinion be open to suggestions? By testing your minority opinion, you can grasp where it could be faulty or hold merit. You can objectively learn to train your mind how to look at your own thoughts and opinions as if you were an outside observer. You don't need to judge yourself or use emotionality when using a process like this. By separating yourself from any general self-introspective methods, this will help you to think critically with extremely heightened self-awareness and fortitude. The same questions above are the same critical thinking process for the majority opinion. Apply it the same way to maintain objectivity. 2. Confront your ridicule with honest insights. A. Is the ridicule the minority or majority opinion? Does the ridicule have higher or lower morality? C. Does ridicule cause harm to others? D. Does the ridicule highlight a weakness to work on? E. Does the ridicule motivate you to explain why it shouldn't be ridiculed? F. Does ridicule cause you to act inappropriately? G. Does the ridicule expose other problems? If so, how? H. Does the ridicule seem malicious or thoughtless? I. Does the ridicule highlight areas of potential discussion? K. Does the ridicule prompt intellectual curiosity or rhetoric? 3. Is it a belief or fact? What is factual about the belief? List them negating feeling statements. Do facts clash with a belief system? How so? Do most people agree with the tenets in that belief system or not? Why? How is it probable and what has been proven? Is there anything that has been proven or disproven? Are there new discoveries on the cusp? Are there hypotheses that haven't been disproven? Weigh the pros and cons of credulousness and incredulousness, applying universal laws and principles to an unknown. There are things that universally people agree to without much provocation. It's standard to hear people say things like, "We all need love," or "Love is good." Generally, many people adhere to these beliefs without dispute, even though the definition of love is varied, as well as the contextual understanding. Generally, the love is good principle is a favorable belief one can dub a universal principle. Not everyone will agree that Islam or Christianity is their truth, but for the most part people agree with the virtues and tenets religion. The virtues, the righteous adherence to glue society together, are the fundamental building blocks of cohesive cohabitation and understanding. We may not agree with bowing to a deity, but we all respect our autonomy and the rules towards such inherent Rights. Do not steal, do not violate rights to personal property, bodily autonomy, and opinions. They be unharmful. Do not kill, do not covet. What is mine? Do not flirt with my wife or date or commit adultery or lie under oath or curse at stranger, sir. Generally violate people laws like no drinking and driving. Everyone can agree on are legitimate due to violating others' rights. So, if people can unanimously agree on all these things as general principles, as such with laws that protect people, we can say this is a religious truth. It's not probable that love is good, but all people generally believe that. Everyone uses religion in everyday life such as it's wrong to lie. According to whom? It's a universal principle that lying hurts or harms other people or is unacceptable. So this is religion, not science. Science cannot prove the good of love, it's just an awareness that isn't necessary to hypothesize. Science cannot prove that God is real because most people either believe in a higher power, a creator, or people do not. People have failed to prove scientifically or religiously of a God or a lack of God, so we can attribute either belief, lack of, or otherwise. A belief, a religion, we can still use scientific models to create hypotheses in religious contexts. We have failed to do this with non-biases, though, which is why either belief is not a universal principle but an inherent right. Christians can believe Jesus Christ saved us from hell but not have to apply this belief in science hypothesis, just as skeptics must take into consideration that they cannot prove atoms were self-creating. Beliefs can in fact seek scientific discovery in scientific models whilst holding scientific models ethically and religiously. I'm using religiously in the context of universal principles and truths such as injecting animals with disease to help humans is wrong, or the Nazi medical experiments were wrong. People universally agree with those principles. Quantifiable measures are based on variables and hard sciences. One cannot seek discovery without a foundation. If we apply the laws of relativity to discoveries, we are using a tried and true measure, but it may not apply because the proposals of the hypotheticals use deductive reasoning to ascertain there were inconsistencies in the measurements in the first place, or these inconsistencies in measurements are not applicable to the hypothesis. Remember, tried and true will have to reboot. What measures could be used to achieve desired outcomes? How tried and true are some models and which ones need a reboot? Which principles can be used for universal principles? Which ones cannot? How can you explain further to the majority or minority opinion the hypothesis or outcomes by using the models I presented? Remember, the prior questions listed will help you to eliminate irrelevant research vs beneficial research. In the event of unexplained phenomena, the linear information gathering and base foundation building of all that I presented will help you to achieve a base model foundation to build on the rest of your findings. Unknown paradigms could never be approached with standard models when using blind belief or outright denial. That would be a futile effort. So much of the time, obvious problems present themselves, but we cannot even approach the problem because there is no solution according to one side, or one side says the solution is already known and we need not search. If you watch carefully, too much comes from either of those places. Let us not fall step in line whilst we are wearing crooked shoes.